We left from Arkansas, and it took us about 18 hours to get down here to Florida. There's a lot to do when you're getting prepared for a wedding, and I was just beginning to figure all that out. The girls were in the killer's house, and then I was kicked out in the camper trailer. It was really one of the first times that I had been away, at least with my sisters, my older sisters, especially the fact that, you know, they just don't get away from home that much. At least all of them don't.
Hey everyone, it's Katie from Without a Crystal Ball. Welcome back to my channel. It's Wednesday, May 11th. I hope you're having a wonderful day. This has been a busy week. There's been so much that's come out since files have been revealed in court, and we've been talking about more details about everything related to the Duggars. As I've been sifting through all of these records, it's pretty clear that there was a lot of misinformation that was going around, specifically around Jim Bob Duggar and what he was relaying to some of the daughters. But something I noted was a couple of the girls actually went on record about their feelings about Josh. And I was surprised because it wasn't Jill. You would think that Jill would have a lot to say, but she actually was very even. And perhaps that's just I don't know, maybe just how her personality is. She is described as a people pleaser. But a couple of his sisters had some pretty, I don't know, they had a lot of thoughts about Josh, and they weren't positive. And they kind of gave some insight about what the siblings actually think of him. So let's talk about that. And before we do, can you do me a huge favor and give this video a thumbs up? Can you also do me a favor and leave me some comments about what your thoughts are on this video? And before you leave, hit the subscribe button if you haven't subscribed, and make sure that you turn those notifications on so you know when I go live and when new content loads. I actually don't go live very much on this channel anymore. I prefer to do the content like this, but if I ever do go live, you'll know by turning those notifications on. Okay, so part of the process for this lawsuit was that the girls had to figure out and go through an evaluation. And they had to talk about, you know, what happened when the documents were released, how it affected their lives, and give a background on their life before, after, during, everything that happened. There wasn't a ton of information that was released about like what specifically happened to them, but they were discussing kind of since 2015 and even before that, what was the aftermath of their relationship with Josh like? What did they think about Josh? Had they forgiven Josh? What was their relationship with Josh? And a couple of the sisters actually had some pretty stern feelings about him, and I was actually surprised by who it was. It was Jinger and Joy. Now, one of the things that came up at trial was there was this discussion that Joy didn't have any idea about what happened to her. And that might have been what was told publicly, but Joy did know what was happening to her, and she was very aware of what happened to her, and she has memories of it. I was kind of shocked when I saw that in the records, because leading up to Josh's trial, everyone was saying that she didn't. But that might be of what they've told people publicly. So one of the big questions for a lot of people with all of this, and I don't want to rehash what happened to the women in this case, but was, did they have memories of it? Was this an ongoing issue? And, you know, how did their relationship with Josh change over the years? And did they trust Josh? Were they close with Josh? What was their relationship like with Josh? And so, you know, I would have thought that based on the Megyn Kelly interview, that everything would have been normal. Josh was regularly at events for the family. He was seen with the family. He was seen interacting with the family. Anna seemed to have quite a bit of a relationship with the family. So everything seemed on from the outside looking in like Josh was a huge part of the family, that everyone loved Josh, and that it wasn't this awkward situation with Josh. Well, it sounds like that's not exactly the truth. And obviously, you see things on TV and you assume things, and you see pictures and you assume things, and sometimes you don't know all of the details. When it comes to a couple of the girls, in regards to like what their relationships like were with Josh, and it, whether or not they trusted him, both Ginger and Joy had some opinions about that. And I was actually kind of surprised by it. So Ginger said that her opinions of Josh were not favorable. Like she had very little she had no good things to say about him. In fact, she said anytime something happens with him, now we're always roped into it. She says that the recurring issues that happen with him reactivate social media commentary, and she and the sisters are always brought into the situation because of what he's done. So she said that it's never about him. It's always about Josh and them, which is hard for her because of what he's done. But in regards to her feelings on him, she said that he is not an upright guy. And that she and her siblings never trust him to care for their kids. And Ginger was the most disgusted by him cheating on Anna. Out of everything that's come out about him, that's what really upset her the most, was when she found out that he was on the Ashley Madison website and that he had cheated on her. Now, mind you, this was done April of 2021. This is before everything has come out about what he's facing today. So this is before his trial. So at the time, she probably didn't know anything about any of that. But at that moment in her time, she said that the worst thing that he had done, the thing that bothered her the most, was that he cheated on Anna. But not an upright guy, would never trust him, doesn't have a relationship with him, would never allow her kids to be around him. And she even said that she's more vigilant about like who her kids are around, period, because of what happened. And then when it comes to Joanna also had some thoughts about the situation. She said that her relationship with Josh was cordial, but awkward. And she says that she said, I still do love him because he's my brother, but there's no way that I'm putting my kids in a situation that could be bad. And that Josh continues to be a social media lightning rod, and that affects her to this day. She said, because he lives in the area, people will get into my Instagram all the time and be like, I can't believe that you still see your brother. Or I can't believe that I saw a picture with your kids and your brother. How dare you? So she doesn't trust Josh, and she said that she would never allow them to actually like babysit. Ginger also said this: I never trusted him. I think most of my siblings would say the same. We never trusted him. We always had our guard up. My parents, they weren't even fully trusting of him, and I know we all had our guards up against him. So Ginger and Joy don't trust him. Ginger says that he's not an upright guy, so she doesn't think he's a good person. She doesn't think he's doing the right things. She doesn't think that he's making good choices. She would not allow her kids to be around him. And she, at the time this was done, thought that it was really bad what he had done to Anna. She thought that was disgusting. So Ginger doesn't trust Josh. Ginger doesn't think he's a good person. Joy doesn't trust Josh. The interesting thing that I noticed about Jessa is that throughout her discussions, she talks about Josh and she doesn't really like say anything about him. There's no section that describes what her current relationship is like with him. There's no discussion about what she thinks about him. In fact, the bulk of her anger is not at Josh, but it's at the release of the information. She seems to, at least in this interview, be more mad about that than what he did to her. So she didn't give any sort of indication on whether or not she trusted Josh. In a deposition, she did say that every time he does something, everyone gets roped into it and everyone assumes that everyone in the family is like him. And she doesn't like that, which is fair. She's definitely not like her brother in that respect, obviously. So, when it comes down to it, some of the girls have a more stern reaction to Josh than others, which, if you remember their statements, they said Joy and Austin were very stern in how they discussed the situation. Like they thought that Josh was guilty. They didn't have anything to say about Anna. They were done. And Jinger and Jeremy basically said that Josh was going to hell and that they were praying for his soul. So Jinger and Joy's statements that they put out, I think, kind of mirror how they still feel about Josh. They don't like him. They don't trust him. They think that he continuously provides problems for the family. They wouldn't trust him around their kids. And they said none of their siblings trust him. Even the parents don't trust them. My question then is, if it's true that what Jinger said is that Jim Bob and Michelle don't trust him, why is he always around? If you don't trust him, why are you allowing him to live on your property? If you don't trust him, why is he at all these events with kids? If you don't trust him, why are you constantly exposing him to situations like this? I understand you want to control the narrative and you probably want to control what he's doing and you think if you watch him close enough, he's not going to do anything, but that doesn't happen. I mean, look at how well taking away the internet from him was. In 2015, they said he was never going to be on the internet again. And look how that happened. That didn't work. So part of me is did Jim Bob think that if he was constantly on top of Josh and he could watch him, that nothing bad would happen? Because that's literally that doesn't work. I don't know. So nobody in the family trusts Josh, but they all act like Josh is this great kid publicly. It's so weird. Jessa not saying a ton about Josh doesn't really surprise me. I think the motive of the lawsuit was to show that the release of this information was what had caused them the greatest hurt. And unfortunately, it's very hard to separate the fact that what happened was public information was made public about them, about what happened to them, but because they're connected to Josh, they were also brought up in his court case. So it's not something that they can really escape, even if they want to, and it's sad because they're public figures. And my last sort of final on this is a lot of the process of reading through all of these records. I keep getting this sensation of how horrible it was for them when everything came out, and I totally understand that. And they kept saying that people made really horrible comments to them. And I kept thinking why would anyone blame them for what happened? It's not their fault. So I hope if you're ever making comments like that, you never make comments like that to them. And then the other thing I kept thinking was the parents put their kids in a situation where this stuff was happening. The investigation happened in 2006. The stuff was happening in 2003 and 2002. And they went on TV knowing that this was there. And so Jim Bob starts blaming everyone else, but at the end of the day, they had friends in their lives that were angry with them for going on TV because of what was going on in their house. They felt like they weren't giving enough time and attention to what was happening in their own home. Conversely, could they have prevented this by not going on TV and staying out of the limelight? They wouldn't have been famous then, right? But he was still in politics. And the fact of the matter is unfortunately, this story, people in the community knew about. There were posts on boards of people talking about it from as far back as 2007. Oprah knew about it in 2006. So it was just this well-kept secret until it exploded in 2015. I feel horrible for the way that it happened, but I don't think that anyone should be blaming them. I also think that, as hard as it's been to understand the family's dynamics with Josh, to understand that none of them trust Josh makes me actually feel better. Well, at least they're not, at least they don't trust him. But I do think it's, it's hard. It's a complicated situation. It's a family member. But you also, if you want to establish boundaries, you kind of do what Jill does and you don't see them, or you do what Ginger does and you move away so you don't have to be around them. But continuously being around someone, I think would be not healthy for anyone. So I hope him going away for a long time can help a lot of them heal. Maybe that's why some of them look so much happier now that he's gone. I don't know. Are you surprised by this? Are you surprised that they don't trust him and that Ginger thinks he's cheating on Anna was disgusting? Tell me in the comments below. Bye, guys.